I try to show up the same everywhere, and which means at the office, you see my will, but that's the same will as a brother that has your back.
Yeah.
24/7.
Yeah.
And that's how I achieve kind of that internal satisfaction is getting to be me, the best version of me everywhere that it needs to be.
Hi, this is JP Newman on Investing on Purpose, and today do I have a fun episode for you with Justin Brogna from actually right here from Thrive Lending. Justin's been my secret sauce that I've been hiding from you. Justin runs Thrive Lending. Our company does commercial real estate lending. We've done over $500 million of it, and Justin's really the secret behind it. Justin runs all the loans coming in, reporting to the investors, and really, it's very special how we do it here. And Justin has a very special technique. I think that a lot of business bankers today kind of forget where EQ and IQ meet. And I think what you're going to find from Justin and his stories, you're going to see how when you take your EQ and your IQ, you create magical results that even when loans are having some trouble, they always turn out well. Not always, but most of the time. And so you're going to hear Justin's story today, not only like how he finds loans, how he uses his brain and how a business banker would think about a loan, but then where his EQ actually comes into it. Why is this important for you? Besides meeting a very interesting human being, is I think so many people out there are investing. And whether you're looking to invest or you're just curious about how you could get involved in debt funds as an investor, this is a great way to start out. What questions should you be asking and thinking about? And I think listening to us talk will give you some better ideas of actually how the business works and how you can participate. I'm actually doing a loan this week, one with Thrive Lending and one outside of Thrive Lending. And right now I'm really, really big, I think, in this part of the cycle as an investor, that lending money towards debt funds is a great way to go. I'm doing a really nice loan this week that I'm super excited about, but I've been doing these for 20 years now, and it's a big part of my portfolio. Happy to share it with you. Hi, this is JP Newman on Investing on Purpose, and today I'm very excited to share with you my secret sauce, one of my closest friends, my business partner, Justin Brogna. Justin, you've kind of been the hidden secret. We've had Adrian on the show, but you've been kind of like hiding away. But now that you have done your first couple podcasts, it's time to bring you out and share the secret sauce of Justin Brogna.
So I'm the secret sauce.
You're partly the secret sauce.
Okay. An ingredient.
You're an ingredient.
Okay.
So Justin, before we get into the whole story, Justin has been running the COO and also runs Thrive Lending here. Justin, I think we're over 500 million that we've done together in loans.
Yeah.
What started as just a banker's relationship, where you're actually my banker working at a bank, has morphed into a journey of brotherhood. Good times, some frustrating times in business, and some beautiful times together. But both of us have grown so much at the same time, which is great. So I wanted to ask you a question. You have now, let's say over the last, how many years have you been in banking?
Since I was 21.
And so how many transactions, like if you were to guess your dollar amount that you've touched since you were 21 years old, what would you guess?
Yeah, no clue. I mean, lending wise, well over $1 billion.
Yeah. So it was interesting. From the day I met you, which is now been, I think, 10 years ago about when I met you.
Probably, yeah.
So 10 years ago I met you. You always stood out to me as different. At the time, you were president of a local bank here, and you always stood out as the banker unbanker, because you were so entrepreneurial. You're such a deep thinker. You're a deal maker, and you happen to be a damn good banker too. And you mentioned, it was actually interesting. I heard you speak on a podcast recently, and you mentioned like you kind of just like fell into banking, but you're really good at it. And so I'm just curious, like from your perspective, like if you think everything has a purpose, why do you think banking attracted to you? Was it just an accident that you took that summer job when you were 21, or do you see any parallels in your growth now, kind of on the path that you're you're on?
Yeah, taking the job wasn't an accident. I needed to pay for rent and beer, as most college kids do, and it never struck me as a career path. It just more or less happened to me. And I think that was a survival mechanism that some of us have when we're young. It's like, hey, you get a good job, like, well, okay, I might as well stay here. And one day I woke up and I was a branch manager very quickly, and then I was a commercial lender, and then fast forward, I was running a bank here in Austin, and I was never the best banker. I understood banking, I understood business really well.
What does the best banker do? What is a best banker?
I don't know. I don't. I've been trying to figure that out. Now that I've come to the dark side, I don't even know that I like bankers. No, I'm joking. I love them. You know who I'm talking to out there. But at the end of the day, what makes a good banker is the ability to understand what is good for the bank and also is what's good for the client. You're kind of a liaison between the two. And for me, I always knew people. I always could see people, always understood people. And the more that I did, the more transactions, the more people I met, the more banking that I did, the better I understood it. Always kind of understood finance, understood collateral, had a rough understanding of how financials worked, and just kind of honed those over the years with experience. And at the end of the day, it's more about doing the right thing, and the right thing typically makes sense for everyone. And I think I was a decent banker because I could come in, have a conversation, first and foremost, learn who is on the other side of the table from me, and understand how that plays into their business and how they're really going to be able to pay us back. Is do they have the character to do the right thing? Am I being a good fiduciary for the bank?
Yeah.
I don't know if that made any sense.
No, it did. I think you're being humble, though. I think you're missing something really important. And actually, I had a flashback to the first transaction we did together when you were still on the banking side. I think EQ makes a great banker. I don't think most bankers have good EQ.
Yeah.
But actually, when you say everything you said, that's correct. To understand the deal, to understand the borrower, to understand the transaction. I think what's been your secret sauce, which has ultimately become our secret sauce of success for Thrive Lending, is your ability to feel. Your natural thing is empathy, and being able to feel people. But I think that is your secret sauce that maybe you don't talk about. That's not in the formula. It's character judgment. And then when there are problems, knowing how to navigate the proper amount of tension, where you're not overreacting like some bankers would do. They would overreact, or they would threaten, or maybe try to hide and not deal with a problem. And you seem to have this uncanny ability to find the right amount of tension with the right person. And you don't try to. It's not a scheme. It's not a strategy. It just feels very built into who you are.
Yeah, thanks for letting the cat out of the bag.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm joking. No, I've always been naturally, very an empath, and feeling people. I think the thing that I honed in is trying to understand what I'm feeling. And so when I'm in a conversation or communion with a brother like with you, it's like I try to understand what am I mirroring? What am I feeling, and where is that coming from? And then you layer in some business around that, and you understand that like we all are an extension of what we do. What we do is an extension of us. And so it's just kind of balancing and threading that needle out. And I don't know, when I was a kid, I just remember the Kenny Rogers song, The Gambler, and he said, know when to hold 'em, know when to fold them, know when to walk away and when to run. And I am certainly not a gambler in the sense of poker, but that song always stuck with me. And when you're in a transaction with someone, or you're in a relationship with someone, you have to weigh the totality of that relationship. And whatever's going on in the moment, is this the time to fold? I'm out, or is it time to hold? Meaning like, hey, I'm not going to actually do anything or go anywhere. I'm just here. There's sometimes to say, hey, that worked out. Cool. I'm going to walk away now. And then there's been instances, and I've seen a few of these instances where we've had someone come to us with a request, personally or professionally, and they've been run moments. You're like, wow, that is not us. Got to get out of here.
Yeah.
And, I know that's not technically a EQ or finance related, but it's kind of just the way I've kind of lived it.
Yeah. I had a meeting. I had another lending company. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, like when we talk about debt lending, like with Thrive Lending, basically it's private lending. It's like we're basically like a bank. I mean, you're just a bank with just, again, we only do with private lending. It's just investors. And for us, it's commercial real estate. And I had a guy who, young guy, he's 28, and he's raised quite a bit of money last year. He's launching a debt fund. And when I asked him about his loan to values, he said, well, he's at about a 65% loan to value. And I said to him, 65% loan to value means if the real estate deal's worth $100,000, you would lend $65,000 or a 65 LTV. And I said, well, what are you basing that on? He's like, well, I got my appraisals. And I said, well, how old are your appraisals? And then it turns out a lot of his stuff is a year or two old. And I said, are you really at 65, or maybe you're closer to 80 or 85 or maybe 90? And he kind of looked at me and goes, yeah, that could be. Because I think he was, and I think there's a lot of people out there, with debt funds that maybe are still clinging on to LTV. The market's changed a lot. I'm just curious, like your perspective. You're navigating a lot for us, and I know right now there's some real pressures right now. The market's changed. There's some real market challenges out there. Some things are going great. I love our track record as far as what we've been able to do together, but it's a lot of pressure. And I'm just curious, like, how do you see the market? I'm sure you're not seeing it from a loan LTV perspective. Like, what is your world in today's market reality that you're kind of seeing the landscape from?
So, man, LTV is kind of nebulous, right?
Isn't it?
It's
Be careful of that one, guys, when you invest.
It's kind of guardrails.
Yeah.
The only true value of something in any market is this one constant, and it's what somebody's willing to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
That is the only true way that you can have an actual value. And so what I do, or what we do as a team, is we take a common sense approach to things. We will look at appraisals. We will look at brokers' opinions. We'll sometimes get multiple. I go out and visit every property myself, feet on the ground, kind of sniff it, smell it, look at it, kick the tires, so to speak. And then we just kind of fine tune from there. There's some things you'll get an appraisal and there's enough, data that kind of jives is what you see and feel, and it makes sense. Sometimes there's an outlier. Sometimes there's a circumstance that makes it worth more, worth less. And so that's kind of what we take the approach. We're very boutique in nature in what we do. And so you could look at one of our competitors that has a similar size funded balance in their portfolio as we do, and they will probably have up to 3 or to 4 times the number of loans that we have.
Yeah.
Our average loan is around $5.5 million. A lot of our competitors' average loans are $750,000 to $1.5 million. So we just do it a little bit differently. We do a little larger transaction, a little bit more data, a little bit more sophistication.
Yeah, I was going to say, just thinking about the loans that we do in the style, Justin, too, back to kind of like so much of that too is that feel and everything that you're describing. But I think for you, a lot of times it also goes back to EQ and how you feel about a person or a loan. Like there was a loan you and I disagreed on. It was the one, it was out of state and it was in a remote, if you remember, it was in a rural area.
Sure.
And it was good. You and I had a pretty vigorous conversation. To me, it made total sense on the spreadsheet, and you just didn't like it in your gut, and you really fought. And I think it was good. I really respect that. But I think that's, again, where your gut, beyond LTV, beyond like structure, beyond like what is someone willing to pay. And I think ultimately on that one, the reason why you felt so strongly, you were worried about no matter what, even if the LTV was so good, because of its rural location, you're like, can we even sell? Like to your point, like how do you establish value? And perhaps even if it seems like a good deal on paper, because it's so rural, if it's not sellable, then it doesn't have the value.
Sure.
I think that was your...
In a sense. And, and we were really being sold on the transaction as well.
Yeah.
And if you'll recall, when we kind of unwound that opportunity, how we were treated, which I think was a character tell. And anytime somebody's really selling you on something, you just kind of sit back and look at the facts. And I had this conversation with someone today, and I like to call it discernment and not judgment anymore.
Yeah.
And the difference for me is that's a fine property, and it just is for someone else. It's not for us.
Yeah.
It wasn't for me. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. Just doesn't mean it fits like what we do.
And we've done some pretty interesting deals that I don't think would fit most other people, but you either connected with the person. There was something about the story that where 9 people out of 10 may not have gotten it. You're like, I like this, and here's why I like it. I know we know that you have your strong conviction. But like or dislike.
Is that your way of calling me stubborn? Strong conviction.
That's 10 years of being together.
Yeah, no, yeah, my will is strong.
But you also know what you like, and you're very rarely are you in the middle. You usually come within a week or two of looking at a deal. You really are pretty sure where it's going to go.
Yeah, I think 90% of the time on the first call, I can tell you if it's something we're going to do, if we're really interested in doing it. Yeah. And a lot of people start with a no and work to a yes. Some people work from a yes to a no. I just work from a all things are possible kind of mentality. Yeah. And like really just let the deal sit and marinate with it. And, on the first call, I'm one of those people, I'm online, I'm on Google Earth. I'm like, what is next door? Yeah. Like the building sounds fine, but what's next door? What's across the street? And the same thing with kind of the EQ part of the borrower. What we do is not like a bank. Therefore, we don't have all of the traditional underwriting requirements or desires of a bank. We're really looking at the asset, but the asset's only as good as the person that's driving the transaction, aka the borrower.
Let me ask you, a lot of people don't really understand. I know when I say at a conference, I talk about hard money or debt. Oh, are you the guys, who go out there and find people that are in hard situations and really difficult? Can you actually describe and kind of break the misnomer of like, what do we actually do? what is a bridge or a hard money lender? Who are our borrowers? Like,
Yeah. So a couple things. Hard money. That term itself doesn't mean it's a hard loan to do.
most people think that's what it means.
Yeah, it's a hard asset.
Right.
So real estate is a hard asset. It's a piece of collateral that you can go touch and feel. And so that's the first misnomer. I am Sicilian, but it's nothing to do with this type of business.
Don't cross, Justin.
No. But the biggest difference between us and a bank is our ability to make really quick decisions based on our experience as not only as lenders, but as real estate guys. And that's the biggest difference. Banks have to adhere to certain loan to values. They have liquidity requirements, all these things that we don't have. So what we do is we look at a transaction and say, at the end of the day, if we were forced to own that asset, would we be okay owning that asset?
No.
Would we know what to do with it? Would we be able to sell that? We don't want to own it. The last thing we want to do is we're kind of what I call rinse and repeat lenders, is we like to turn our money, get repaid. And so for a lot of people, they'll go to a bank and a bank will say, hey, that doesn't fit for us. We can make it fit if you give us more money as a down payment. Or if you change this, or if you do that. So we look at the transaction and say, hey, how does it work for us? And typically we'll give a little bit more money than a bank, and we'll be a little bit more flexible in the cash flow.
Yeah. Awesome. The last question is, Justin, as I've gotten to know you through the years, and I know how thoughtful you are about everything that you do, and we probably spend more time together than I do with my wife. And I'm just curious, like, when you think about the world of like spirituality and the world that you want to live in, the world you want to give to your kids, and then you think about what you're doing here every day, how do they merge? What are the values as you get older? What do you think the values are of your why when you come here, or the intentionality of the whole Justin, the father Justin, the friend Justin, and the lender and the partner, and how does that overlap?
I try to show up the same everywhere, and which means at the office, you see my will, but that's the same will as a brother that has your back.
Yeah.
24/7. And with my, the people I love and how I support them, I bring that same level of support and love to the office. It may not show up the same way, but in regards to my willingness and capacity to do, it does.
Yeah.
And that's how I achieve kind of that internal satisfaction is getting to be me, the best version of me everywhere that it needs to be. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And the why.
Yeah.
That
was my next question. What's the why?
Yeah, I mean the why is to the best of my knowledge, not regarding any spiritual beliefs. We only get one present chance to live this life. And I always say, if God, the universe, the divine, has a sense of humor, I will come back as an all-seeing, all-hearing rock, and not be able to do anything. And so with this life, I'm just trying to literally be here. I'm trying to make the most out of every moment, and have the best moments with the people that I encounter. And that's what I find most fulfilling.
Amazing. 5 years from now, God willing, we're all healthy and surfing and all that. What would you hope in this next podcast, we're 5 years down the road, we're having a podcast together, what's happening in our life that's changed? You'd say, that was awesome. That's exactly where I wanted this to go 5 years from now. What would you say?
Oh, just more love and abundance for the people, for us as people, and for our people, and for the people we don't even know. Just truthfully, more good times, more easy times, more love, for more people to be seen and felt.
So cool. I wouldn't think of that from a hard money lender, but I find so much soul in what we do. And that goes back to like finances. Like, it's so easy to think of money here and spirit here, but currency is just energy. And I think it's just a reminder that currency is just energy. Before we wrap it, do you have any questions for me?
Man, I have so many questions, but I will save what limited audience I'm sure we have those questions. But I will ask you this, that 5-year horizon.
Mm-hmm.
How about you? How would you answer that one?
I would answer that is, we are smiling because we figured out how to have an operating team that's operating this so well that we're all doing what we love most, which for me would be traveling the world and speaking. And you kind of know the groups. We hang out with some of the same people. So it's like hanging out with, like, really serving and hanging out with some amazing people, still being part of the business, but in a way that I love the most, which, for me, I joke and say I would like to be chief spiritual officer. That's the goal, more the visionary, and kind of stick to that. You living your best life. So you're surfing around the world, and the business continues to thrive for everyone, and you're feeling it. And you're doing everything that makes you happy. You're always a connected person, but the more and more I've seen your evolution, and the more responsibility I see melting from your shoulder, where you don't feel responsible. And I think you've been doing a great job of it. Where I'd love to see in 5 years from now, it's just a smile.
Yeah.
That would be really rad. And Adrian's probably on the golf course, and we can't get him off.
Yeah. So 5 years, guys, irresponsible.
Yes,
Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah. But financially lucrative.
There you go.
Thank you, Justin. I want to continue this with you. This is just the beginning.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks you. Hey, hope you enjoyed the episode. Hey, if you did, please hit like and subscribe to the button below. And remember, you can always submit your questions to investingonpurpose@gmail.com. I want to remind you that as we go through these episodes, that this is not investment advice. This is not an investment show. It's simply showing you how amazing entrepreneurs are using strategies to create outsized returns. Please use your best advice. Get professional help before making these decisions. And by the way, if you're interested in learning more about real estate or commercial real estate, feel free to jump onto my website, thrivefp.com, thrivefrankpeter.com. You can see more about the kind of deals we do, how we structure them, and I'm always open for questions. Remember, education and empowerment are the key to making wise investment decisions. Thank you.